page 1.
This is planning minutes here.
Mike, you want a hand there, please?
No.
That's not me. I want you to know that. He signs my paycheck. Come on.
Not tomorrow, Jeff.
Hey, you signed it, too. Come on.
He does it, it's a stamp.
You won't be getting one
Come on,
tomorrow.
tell the
No, I
truth.
don't. No, he signed it.
It's time to start the show.
All right, yep. Call this meeting to order, and we will start with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Here.
Here.
Yes, here,
Here.
here,
Here.
here.
Correspondence. Before I ask for a request to receive and file, I just want to point out congratulations are in order to our building inspector, Tim Brandt, for being named 2014 Building Inspector of the Year by the Southeast Michigan Building Officials and Inspectors Association. So, commendable award for Tim. With that, I would then accept a motion to receive and file the correspondence. Motion Nedrow, second Nagy. Further discussion?
Can I ask a question on that award?
Sure.
Would it be logical for the village to maybe send a letter to the association when it receives the award? Just acknowledging, I don't know, just something for the council to think about.
I don't know. Maybe more letter to Tim congratulating him on it might be more.
Well,
They did have a reception at Milford, and I did go
oh, did
to
you?
that.
Oh, I thought it was coming up.
No,
That's why I
they didn't,
asked.
no.
Okay, good, excellent, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Additions to business. We do have a few additions to business. A couple things we omitted accidentally. So,
12K would be a recommendation from the administrative committee. 12L, the recommendation from the finance committee. And 12M is recommendation from the planning commission, and those should be in front of you.
all right. I think that's it for additions to business tonight. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda with those additions? Second. Motion Nedrow, second Nagy. Sorry, Johnny, beat you off the mark.
I'll tell you, guy's quick over there.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to first call to the public, an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items. Seeing none, I will close the first call to the public and move us on to approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion Kesnecki, second Scott. Further discussion?
I do, I have a question. On 12B, I mean, I'm gonna put it this way, 12A, there's, everything is regarding the first budget, financial review information on 12A and 12C, the next letter, or 12C is,
Yeah, those,
12C is amendments.
Yep.
My question really involves B. There's no need, I mean, why is that? It's almost should be in correspondence to me, or information, or, I mean, it involves a vote, and I don't know, I don't understand what we're voting on.
we're not actually voting on anything. It was information requested from council. It came back. We put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I was just wondering
but
why it's
it-
on the consent agenda, that's all.
It's fine to be on the agenda. I mean,
Okay.
all we're doing is recognizing that we've received it in the packet.
I'm not challenging you, I'm just questioning it. All right, thank you.
Every now and then, we get an item that doesn't need a motion.
All right.
Anything else on consent? Seeing no further discussion, let me get a roll call vote.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Nagy?
Yes.
Kazaki?
Yes.
Humble?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Thank you, council. That moves us forward to public hearings. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing on the proposed 2014-2015 budget?
So moved. Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Nagy. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, the public hearing on the 2014-20 budget is open. If you do have comment, go on up to the mic. Seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing on the 2014-2015 budget?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Scott. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, after that lengthy public hearing, we are now ready for item 12A, approval of the fiscal year 2015 budget and related items. Do I hear a motion to adopt the proposed budget for fiscal year 2015?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion Cumbo, second Kaznecky. Discussion.
Mr. President, I keep bringing this up because I think it's that important. Is there any reason, and I apologize because it didn't come up to me at our last work session, whereas the council decided to put $125,000 aside to purchase property and at some particular time, possibly purchase property for a park in the south. Is there any reason why we couldn't do the same thing with $150,000, that we could put it on the side, that if the opportunity came, we'd be able to make some type of restitution to the residents that we have talked about over the past? It's not a commitment, but I think it's a good faith issue anyway. And whatever may come down the road, may come down the road.
I think there's, and I'll ask the treasurer to correct me, I believe there's no legal impediment to making that sort of commitment. Correct? Again, I think it would be the sort of thing we would want to pass through the finance committee. Oh, wait.
What is it? Restitution for what?
So we made a designation we passed a motion to designate $125,000 of fund balance
Right.
for use on a park. Ed wants to know if we could do a similar designation of $150,000, which would then go back to residents
For what reason, though?
as a rebate on trash fee and/or taxes.
Okay. I don't know, I mean, that'd be something I have to look at. I don't know if Mike's got an opinion, from someone already about it, but.
Well, the gist of it was that I've brought this up numerous times, and there was a little bit of interest from council that going through the economic times that we did, and now with our fund balance where it is, and the potential sale of some property that'll give us another $500,000, I thought it would be nice as a one-time gesture to add it towards the, as a, I don't know, reduction, refund on the garbage for 1 year.
I mean, I don't know that it's not possible, but it probably would need to be crafted a certain way,
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm sure, without having any information or research in front of me.
Yeah.
My opinion is,
I don't think we're
know.
asking for a
Yeah.
legal brief there.
Yeah, no, I just think, there could be a prohibition on rebating waste collection fees, but you could refund, I don't know. It will just
We could
depend on-
reduce it in
right.
advance 1 year. There are things we could do.
Yeah.
Isn't that part of our true function, though? I mean, on an annual basis, we go through budgeting as a process. During that process, this council, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, adopted a 3-year and 5-year forward plan. So if we were going to do something for our residents, I personally think in normal practices, maybe more in normal business than governmental practices, that when you do that, you do it on a basis that you look into that plan and decide where you adjust your cost basis over a long period of time. So, I mean, as much as I think it's important to recognize that we have increased taxes through additional refuse collection, I think it's, in my personal opinion, important to take a look at it in the context of the responsibility of the council, and not just to flash an apparent amount of money out and say, well, thanks for this year, and maybe next year it'll change. It just doesn't seem to be proper financial planning, at least as I've learned it. Should be consistent. It should be in accordance with what our responsibilities are, which is to look at those plans and those budgets over a longer period of time, and then readjust either taxes or do what we did, which is actually cut their cost of garbage collection by renegotiating packages, which I think in essence was, what, 60 or some odd dollars a year right there. So that's, I think, again, personal opinion, I think that's our function. Rather than do something special, I don't.
I will say that when we talked about this the last time, the other issue that did come up is people who have escrow payments on houses,
Correct.
increases and decreases in the tax, 1 year increases and decreases do tend to throw that into imbalance. So that was an issue that we looked at finance. But again, Ed, like I said, we looked at it in finance committee. In February, we decided it wasn't a good time to do that. If we want to send that back to finance committee and take another look at it, I'm happy to do that.
Well, I'm only one of 7, so do what you gotta do.
I got no issue with doing that. If I think Ed's got a point there, to give something back to the village. If that's the proper channel to go through, then maybe that's what we look at. Whether or not we have the amount in the budget, that's something that, if Mike doesn't have an issue with it, does say we're gonna be spending it, just like for that property, we wanna put money in, but does say we're gonna spend it. Michael?
Mr. President, I would agree more with the rationale that, as expressed by Councilperson Scott. In other words, were I to present a budget, say at this time next year, we'd have a figure in there, if this kind of action were contemplated, I'd have a figure in there showing a deficiency between the revenues that we would charge. That could go all the way down to 0, I suppose, if you're looking at giving somebody a full year's rebate, and then showing the expense in the budget and doing it that way. When we committed, and that's the proper accounting term, the financial term, the $125,000 for the proposed addition of parkland on the south side of the town, what that's saying in effect is that there are no definite plans to do that, but that there is a set aside that this council, and unless it's voted down by either you or a subsequent council, that amount stays in there. I would be a little loath to start getting in the habit of committing fund balance for specific purposes. I think it's better done in the manner that I described first. But there is really, from a financial perspective, there is really no reason you couldn't do it.
It seems to me that the budget process is for, bringing predictability and laying out expectations of, as best you can to forecast what is gonna happen ahead. And it also helps define the intentions and the values of the council. So, I mean, to throw it just seems to be more of a political statement than a definitive move to benefit. If that makes sense. It just seems like if someone feels that we should slash a fee or slash taxes percent or something like this, then bring that forward. But the arbitrarily low, just a number, then why not 200,000 or why not 500,000? I mean, it means nothing to me. And I think eventually, it wouldn't mean anything to finance committee or the council as an affirmed budget. I mean, if it's not our intent, if it's not what we expect to see happen, or it's not what we think is going to happen, or there's a consensus that we want it to happen, I don't see a purpose for it.
I don't think I hear a council consensus that we should go through that. But I see no reason we can't, the last 2 years in a row, we've looked at the beginning of the budget cycle of, hey, is this an opportunity to reduce the trash fund? Trash fee, is it an opportunity to change how we're doing this tax structure? I don't see any reason we can't do that for the next year, but we did go through the process and look at this suggestion this year, so. Unless I hear a motion to do something with it, I think we'll proceed with the current budget that's before us.
But then there was also discussion, Mr. President, about going back before the finance committee. Is that something, we want that direction, or do you not want to take that direction right now? You were the one who suggested that.
You did that.
No, I would entertain a motion to send that to finance committee.
Well, before we do that, I mean, I have a motion on open now to accept the budget, the proposed budget. I mean, shouldn't we resolve that before we move on to moving a secondary issue
Fair
off
enough.
to committee?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. We could parliamentarily make a motion to amend to accept, but let's not confuse those motions. Let's proceed to discussion of the budget. this year's budget.
I would concede this. If Ed feels strongly that he wants to include this in the budget, I mean, I'll withdraw my motion to adopt the proposed budget and open the discussion to the budget discussion again. If Ed feels strongly about that, in fact, I will withdraw my motion.
Actually.
Can't I do that?
Yeah, we have the motion before us. We could do that. What?
It's already been seconded.
Yeah, it's already been seconded. We have that motion before us, so I think we should proceed on that motion. Then if we want to follow up with another motion, that's the right time to do that. I do want to say a couple things about the budget that we have before us, which I think council's aware of, but we do have our vast internet audience and a couple folks out here in the chamber. A couple things to be aware of in this budget that we have. It has of course, having gotten into discussion, I've moved from the page with my numbers, but it has a slight reduction in fund balance as it starts right now. We have generally, over the years, over the past few years, been able to beat that number at the end of the year as we go through the year and make adjustments. We also have two fairly large financial items that are out there right now that are not accounted for in the budget currently, but we will need to make adjustments for. One of which would be the cost of whatever we do with the renovations for the building, and we now have some bids before us, so we're getting closer to having a number there. The other of which is the expected income from the sale of the Heron Hills property when all is closed and done there. Building, we do have the new numbers before us. Depending on what we do, that's going to be somewhere between $300,000 and $360,000. For Heron Hills, we are expecting somewhere around $550,000. So we have a slight deficit in what we're going now. Even if we just proceeded with those two things, put them both in, we would then end up with, for the fiscal year, somewhere around about $100,000, I think, in fund balance growth. So I think it's worth mentioning those things, keeping them out there in everybody's mind. Other than that, having now been through this budget process 9 years, God help me, and 8 as president, I really want to thank everybody for all of the work that's gone into making it this straightforward and this manageable to do a budget in this council. When I first got on council, our processes were not entirely clear. Our fund balance was diminishing and very narrow. And, it's a good, clear budget. We go through this, we get input from everybody. We've got a real good, solid finance committee that looks over things and thinks about things. We're looking at long-term needs. And I'm really proud of this budget as a document of what we've done and what we've accomplished, so.
And I think it should also be pointed out that Mike Connick makes it very simple and easy for us to see where we are. The documentation he gives us and the form he gives us is far better than we've ever had. So keep
Yeah.
up the good work, Mike.
Thank you. I would absolutely second that. It's a great help to all of us. It really makes it a lot easier for us to make decisions. So with that, any further discussion on the motion before us? Roll call vote.
Sinkwitz.
No.
McGee.
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes.
Kaznecki.
Yes.
Kumbo.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Medroll.
Yes.
Motion carries. Do I hear any further motions?
Would that be the point that if Ed wants to amend the budget?
That would be the point at which if Ed wanted to make a motion to send something to Finance Committee.
It's gone to Finance Committee before, and, it doesn't seem to have any life there, and it's no use beating a dead horse. It's just that it seems like, I'm disappointed that we can do one thing with one thing, but we can't do something with another. And, I don't know.
Well, it seems to me that we are beating a dead horse already, so let's continue on. I would welcome the additional motion that we modify the budget. I mean, to bring it up and then not follow through on it, that bothers me, Ed, frankly. And so I would welcome.
Well, you said you don't like the idea, and obviously other people have voted, so we're gonna send it back to the Finance Committee do the same tap dance that we did last time and bring it to council and vote
I'm not
on
saying,
it?
I'm not saying send it to finance, to bring up as a motion, amend the budget right now. Throw 200,000 or 300,000, whatever you feel is important. I mean, if that's well thought through and members support
I
it,
think the
then
thing
why
that
not?
disappoints me most of all is this community is getting a windfall coming to them, which was gonna be, up until maybe a year and a half ago, we had a nightmare on our hands. We're looking at the edge of a cliff. And now that that property is sold and everything's happening, you know, we're spending over 350, or we're looking at spending, not remodeling, but rebuilding or reinventing this building, and then we're talking about this and we're talking about that. And I just think that during that time, when everything was hectic, people were losing their homes, and we did everything different with the garbage, and other police department got smaller. We lost some of our office staff, and had to switch hats around. That I think there should, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, there should be a restitution or something to the residents who were put through that and helped us get through that. Now, whether it's a one-time or a no time or a little bit every year, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But I just thought that, you know, and to think that people wouldn't realize it, notice it, I think that's a foolish comment.
Well, I don't believe I made that comment.
No,
that
you
people
didn't,
would
but I've
notice.
heard that comment before. I get a $10 refund check because I bought Valvoline oil for my car. I'm happy. I don't mind cashing it at the bank. But
You have no dispute.
I'm the only one that's carrying this torch, so I'm sure that the people that are listening or the people in the audience realize that, and maybe Pat has some interest in it too, is that it's a dead horse. And I'm not gonna beat it. I mean, I think I've kicked it enough times that it's time to get a rest. So if somebody else wants to bring it up, fine, and I'll help them champion that cause. And the only reason I brought it up is I thought at least it was there, and if something happened where it could happen, it could be done.
You know, Ed, just to identify the person in the room who might have said that it would mean a whole lot, I was putting it in the context when I said that, I think in the Finance Committee, that a single rebate, $10 value, a rebate on your oil, I guess, is of some importance. The philosophical thing that I guess I'm trying to push at is that with the amount of fund balances that we are carrying in this village, which is substantial, I think the proper thing for us to do is to look at this not as a one-time kicker, but to look at our forward budget plan and decide whether or not we have the capability of doing this on an annual basis.
I agree.
That's really what we should be doing,
I agree.
because that's the fundamental thing that we must be doing, I think, as a council in overlooking budgets.
And again,
So let's, if anything, I would propose that we either change the budget and give a rebate, maybe your 150 or something on a continuous basis, which I must say, I don't think is the proper thing to do. I think what we need to do is we did through the Finance Committee deliberations, as we did with good counsel from Mike, our treasurer, from the auditor coming in last year, is that looking again next year, as we start this process over again, is to make sure, as we have the money in hand, we would hope, from sale of the property, and other things that we can now say have been put aside, there shouldn't be any other large issue in front of this village, I think, going forward. We have our harvester and et cetera. And then do the proper thing, which is to next year go through the process, Finance Committee, consultation with Treasurer, and look at where we are going forward for 3 and 5 years and decide if we maybe give $100,000 in some form of tax reduction and make it permanent. But I think just to throw a number out, unfortunately,
See,
just doesn't
my-
go in line with what,
yeah, my thinking is I'm afraid to do anything permanent because we don't know what the future holds. We know what we have now, and we know what we should be coming forward, and if we did it now, and I think it would, to me, it would send a message to some residents, or most of the residents, that if our fund balance is, let's say, in excess of what we think we really need, and the economy is marching along, that we will find ways to give back to the community, instead of making the pile get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
And let's say get the pile more excessive, not adequate, but make it excessive, so.
And I
If you,
think,
if you want to bring it back to, it's, like I said, I made that motion a couple times, we brought it back. If somebody wants to bring it
Yeah,
back.
Well,
to finance-
just to
I think it's good.
reiterate-
To have good intentions without a plan just seems to be, you know, I don't want to say grandstanding or playing politics, but it just seems to be, you know, that's easy to do. Hey, we'd love to reduce taxes, we'd love to have a refund for everybody, that would be great. I mean, and I share that wish for everybody. Yeah, that would be wonderful. But, giving back to the village includes, you know, parks and safety and all the other concerns that we vote on all the time. You know, if we feel that, hey, we, like, short of I agree totally with John in terms of having a long-range plan and bringing predictability to our financial discussions, but, you know, to throw this
Well,
thing,
if you
well,
recall, the last thing I'm going to say, and let's move on, and when we met with the finance committee, the first time I brought it up, it was nixed. So apparently, and that was when we were talking about the 3 and the 5 years down the road, so.
but Ed, let me be really clear on what we talked about at Finance Committee when we looked at it. It came back, we looked at it in our goals, we said, hey, let's take a look at whether we can do this. At the time, we had great uncertainty around the cost of the building. We still had a lot of hurdles to cross on the Heron Hills. And when we looked at the most logical place to reduce that cost, it was in the trash fee. And the trash fee was going down both because, was already going down this year because of the contract renegotiation and also because of a certain amount of refund from the previous year's thing. We looked at it in finance, we said, you know what? This year, we don't have a clear enough outlook in the long term to do a long-term thing. We didn't want to do a one-term thing. I think we can bring it back to finance next year. We will have a much clearer view of our long-term cost expenses, what we've got out there, and I think we are probably going to be in position to do some form of reduction, some form of reimbursement back into the trash fee. I don't know how much. I think we need to look at it. I think we need to study it. This year wasn't a good year to do it. Next year, I think, could be. And that's why I said I'd like to bring it back to finance. It's not to park it somewhere. I mean, you're on the finance committee. It's to have it in there, take a look at it in the long term, decide what we can do, and, you know, bring it forward as a real plan, as something actionable, as something sustainable.
I agree with what you're saying, John, about going back to the finance committee, and also with what Mr. Scott brought up about going back and, you know, maybe looking at it 2, 3, 5 years in the future, not maybe making a one-time thing, and maybe it's not gonna be a lot of money, but if you can reduce it down the road, 'cause I mean, like I said before, where I lived in the past in Pennsylvania, we didn't pay for the trash fee, it was built into the taxes, okay? Trash was part of it, we didn't have to pay separately, but, and if we can reduce it, anything, even if it's a certain amount every year, then maybe that's we ought to approach it on a long-term basis, as long as our finances and our fund balance still look healthy. I mean, there's nothing to say that, hey, folks, we can't do it anymore because our fund balance is, we have to address this. And then you go ahead and you just step back. But I think maybe if you make it as a finance committee looks at it as a long-term thing, maybe that's the thing to do.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Do we have an estimate as to when the whole Huron Hills, as far as a quarter, what quarter of this year it will close?
I actually talked to Richard Batt today, so did you, I think, Mike, and Mike actually received the plans today from their engineer, and if Mike can give them some kind of a assurance, then I think we can close within the next maybe 30 days.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm not saying that the building will start
Right.
in 30 days, but
Mhm.
closing, if they feel confident that things are moving forward, then we could do that. And all the amendments and everything have taken, they're all taken care of. The
Legal's
paperwork,
done.
the legal stuff is finally all done, and they had issues with the cell tower, and I guess that's all taken care of now, and what else do you know anymore?
The owner, the prospective purchaser, all the legal stuff's taken care of.
Mhm.
They just want to make sure that the site is buildable now with all the requirements the village is going to place on it. Thank you. And so they're looking to make sure there's nothing out there that could stop the proposed development. And the only two issues, actually there are three issues, potential stormwater, sanitary sewer service, and water main service. And as Sharon just said, I did just receive the plans today. I plan on looking at them over the weekend and the first of the next week, writing a letter, if everything looks the same as it has, that these are not problems, and therefore the village will stand behind the approval of this particular project. And the purchaser then would be willing to sign the documents and close on the deal.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, after much discussion, do I hear a motion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item D, reports and recommendations from Engineer Powell. Don't let that mic get too far away.
Well, we've got a number of very interesting items on the agenda tonight for you. The first one are some bids that we asked the various contractors to bid on. This particular one is for the replacement of various concrete cross-sections in the village. Back in the DPW building, currently the harvester bay is a half concrete and half sand. The DPW asked us to go out for bids for finishing off that bay and making it all concrete so they don't have to worry about pulling that harvester in and out on a sand base. You can see the three bids that came in. Tim King Concrete is the village has actually had experience with them. They redid all the concrete in front of the building, including sidewalks, steps, and everything else, and they did an excellent job. Their low bid at $23.68 for that floor slab. Obviously, we have a very bad section in the DPW entering the center stall in the DPW building. For some reason, that's the only apron into the building that's all spalled and broken up. So the DPW would like that replaced, and the low price to replace that is $932. Everyone knows that the handicap ramp, we've been patching it for years and years and years, and so the cost to replace that, and I've had conversations with all three of these contractors, to replace that is $3,612 from Tim King. You can see Residential Homes of Distinction came in a little bit lower than Tim King, but in the overall project, none of these contractors want to break these items up. If they're going to do any of them, they're going to want to do them all. None of them are big enough on their own to be able to substantiate coming out and mobilizing to do any one of these. So all of these contractors would like all of them or none of them. The Vita Trail exercise slab, that's a 36 by 42 inch slab, came in at $6,104 for a total price, if council would like to construct all these concrete items, is $13,106 for Tim King Concrete.
Mike, a couple of questions. You got an asterisk down here for Tim King about the needs waiver of bid irregularity, did not submit bid package with spec. Bid package with bid.
Correct.
Specs package with bid, I can't read. So where does that fall? I mean, is he in 100% compliance with the specifications? And is this an irrelevant detail or not? That's number one. And number two, on the slab in the harvester bay, is there any kind of drainage that's being provided or anything for any water or whatever that comes on that? I mean, right now it's sand, it just gets absorbed,
Correct.
but there's no plan to put any kind of drainage or anything in it?
All right, let me deal with the last question first, because it's a little more germane. No, the concrete slab is meant to be just flat in there. The water that comes off of that harvester, it's already drained and dried outside, power washed before it's backed in, so we don't anticipate any water dripping off of that.
Okay.
Andy and I talked about that at length, and put a drain in there. They didn't feel that it was wise to do that. The other question you had was the irregularity. This is not uncommon for smaller type contractors. In In the village, we typically make sure that the bid package is complete. When it goes out, it has plans, it has specifications, general conditions, the insurance requirements, and when we get a bid in, we want to make sure that the contractor understands that he's bidding on all of this, and his signature is on top of all these documents. The smaller type contractors don't realize that, and I can't excuse them because it's in the information to bidders, submit it this way. But it seems like on the smaller contractors, they just don't understand things like that. So in the bid specs, we also allow council to waive the irregularities for any number of reasons. And in this particular case, they have signed the proposal, they know what they bid on, and they've signed it, and then before any work is done, they have to sign the agreement, which is then part of this, and it's attached, all these documents are then attached to the agreement. All they've done is propose it so far. When they sign the agreement, we have all of these documents all attached, so when they actually sign for this project, they are agreeing to every single thing that they bid on. So we can cover that in the agreement section instead of in this proposal section, that's all.
One other question, thanks for answering those two. As far as a start date and a completion date, is this, it's gonna take them a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to mobilize and get all this work done, since they wanna have, one contract to do it all? I mean, one order to do it all, shall we say? Is this gonna be short-term or long-term or what?
Each contractor said that this work can all be done in a 2-week period.
Okay.
They're relatively small, and they're willing to jump right in and do the work. I think we have it scheduled for in the July period. We actually tell them that they must start 30 days after they give us their insurance documents and all of those things. And so, yes, in July is when we expect it to be completed.
Thank you.
Mike, is Tim, maybe Sharon can answer, either one, is he the one who did the last repair work on the outside of the building here in the approachway? The steps and all that?
He is, yes.
Yeah, that was quality work. And I'm assuming that the stainless steel railings and all that are gonna be reused?
They are going to be reused, and each contractor I went over with them, they have to be modified slightly because we anticipate moving them in slightly and relocating some of the stances and relocating the construction joints so we don't run water right down into each of the poles, which was crazy. So yes, they're going to redo the railing as necessary, remount it in a totally different way than it's done now and done right.
And the last question, I obviously I didn't see any of the specs. Are we talking about any mesh or rerod in the concrete, and is it going to be a 6-bag mix?
It's going to be a 6-bag mix with Aaron-trained mixture.
Okay.
It will have mesh in it, and instead of a 4-inch slab across, we're actually doing an 8-inch on the outside, narrowing down to a 6-inch every place else. So it's going to be substantially different than what it is now.
Mike, when the presentation was made by the equipment company that we're buying the Vita Trail equipment from, did they not also provide a price for the slab?
Yes.
I'm just curious what that difference
It
was.
was like 8,000,
Was it?
8,000.
Okay.
It was more. That's
Was
why
it
we
more? Okay.
did this.
Not only it was more, but a slab out in a park area, they were only going to install a 4-inch slab. I required this one to be 5 inches thick with a thickened edge on it. If a truck rolled over an edge of it or the freeze-thaw cycle, I just don't like a 4-inch slab floating out there anywhere. So this is even overly designed from what they were going to provide.
Excellent. Just point of comparison, I was just wondering. Thank you.
I have a question. The only contractor that wants all four to maintain their individual prices was Homes of Distinction, which apparently they're out. But like McCarthy, for instance, has they're lower on 2 of the 4, marginally. I think $600 or so total between the 2 projects. Why not source them? Why does the recommendation have it sourcing those 2 to them and the other 2 to Tim King?
In the industry, let's say when we bid out the paving, we break it down into 35 different units. It is not typical for a council or anyone else to say, okay, item number 2 is going to go to this contractor, item number 4 is going to go to this contract, because they put different amounts of labor in the different sections. And so they look for a total price, and where they hide their profits, and when they hide various things, they hide them in different sections. So it's not fair to a contractor to pick and choose, because they might have a cost item in a different section that puts them over, but they even out everything. So it's just not typical to do that, and I would not recommend council do that.
So, and generally, when we do this sort of thing, it's really so that if we look at these 4 when they come in, we can say, gosh, this item was really a lot more than we expected. Let's
Right.
not do that. Let's do those 3.
That was the intent, and that's how it was represented to the contractors when I met with them during the pre-bid stuff.
Did our package ask for individual prices on each of the 4? And if not, or if so, why?
Our package specifically asked for them to break it out, because both administration and I wanted to make sure council, just exactly what John said, you may want to say, you know, we're not going to do the slab in the park. We don't need a slab in the bay for the harvester. Wanted council to be able to pick and choose if in fact you wanted to modify the project.
But if we modify the project, then that's kind of flying in the face of what they expect. You know, it just seems like,
Well, for one thing, the Vita Trail slab, we specifically wanted a price for that because we had gotten a price with the equipment,
right.
the Play World. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, the price they were giving us was a good price. And as you can see, you know, I think when people bid this, and maybe Homes of Distinction specifically put that in their bid, but most of these companies are expecting to get all of them, or we're not gonna do 1 or 2 of them, but not, like Mike said, we're not gonna piece it out.
Can I say it another way?
Yes.
If you have a 4-item bid, and the contractor knows that one of them may be out, they still don't want the council or the municipality to take the 3 that are left and divide them up. They want them all, the 3 that are left, to be one contractor. He wants to take care of them, not be, so the idea that you might leave one out is still a possibility, and they know that. At least they know that with regard to all the architectural work that we do. But you still don't divvy up what's left. You give it to one contractor.
Further questions about 12D1, or do I hear a motion?
I make a motion.
Oh, wait.
Mr. President, if I could, a secondary consideration too, Ron, would be that for budgeting purposes anyway, these are going to go into different little, pots. The capital project, I'm going to capitalize the cost of the Vita Trail project, not just the equipment, but the slab and any ancillary work that goes with that. So as to present a clearer picture, I think it has that role as well.
Okay,
Thank you, sir. Oh, no problem.
no problem.
Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we award a contract to Tim King Concrete for the 4 pieces of work as described in Mike Paul's letter of June 5th for $13,106, and based upon a recommendation from the engineer to waive the bid irregularities in the bid package.
All right, I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion Nagy, second Cumbo. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call bid. Yes.
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 Thank you, Counselor. Okay, brings us to item 12D2. And before we go very far down the road with 12D2, what I'd like to propose is something that we've discussed with this as we've gone through the process in terms of having it, wanted to get a number. We've got a number. I think it was more than I was certainly hoping for. But we also wanted to make sure that we had a good opportunity for public input, for discussion of all the things. And what I'd really like to propose is that we take this to a special session on our work session date in a couple weeks. Hold a public hearing, make sure we get as much public input as possible on the design, on the costs, on everything. Give everybody a chance to look through it in great detail. If you haven't had a tour of the building with our chief, or just around the building in general, make sure you look at it, if any members of the public have questions about it, what we're doing, why we're doing it. And we can have good, long discussion, full public input, and do it in 2 weeks on that Wednesday. So that's what I'd like to propose.
I think that's a great idea.
I agree with you.
Problem with that.
President.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I'd make that motion that we table the decision on the award till our next council meeting, after our special meeting to discuss specifically this and offer a public comment.
Actually, Ron, what I'd like to propose is that we just discuss it at a special meeting, and we can make the decision that night as well.
Okay, well, that's fine too, yeah. But, I mean, you're right, I should have said both of them.
So can I,
Yeah, friendly amendment,
do
yes, you can.
I hear a motion from Cumbo?
Yes, you probably do.
To move item 12D2 to a special meeting to be held on June 25th at 7 PM?
That is exactly the motion I wanted to make, John, thank you.
I thought that's where you were going.
I'll second that exact
Motion Cumbo, second Scott. Okay, now discussion.
Under discussion, I just wanted to point out a couple things. One of the contractors is here, Ken McQuaid from ACS Building is here, and could answer any questions you have, and you might invite him back to the public hearing as well, or the open session. And also, I wanted to point out to council that this is a very, very detailed project, and to have two bidders, first of all, it was one interesting point. So many people took the plans, but we only had two bidders, so the economy is doing very well. Builders are swamped out there, and so, but to have this size bid come within a few $100s of each other independently, that means that really they did their homework, and it was a very, very good bid. And so I wanted to bring it up to council as well.
Also, I would like to see the bid broken down somewhat. The only thing we have here is the conference room addition and the basement under the building. But, you know, when this whole project started off, we were talking about putting a new facade, whatever it would be, get rid of the stucco, new windows, and some upgrades to the police department's office and inside here too. The other stuff with the concrete was pretty much a given. And, you know, needless to say, it's excelled considerably. So I'd like to see a breakdown on what it is in case council feels that what we're having here is a little bit of an extreme and might go back to something a little less costly.
All right, if that's the case, then you would want to invite the bidders back to be able to go through their
Or just a breakdown.
their
like you
list.
did on-
Unfortunately, the breakdown, this was bid out as you see it here. So the only people that have the ability to break it down more than that would be the bidders themselves. If you wanted to say, do everything except the windows, or break it down like that, there was no way to, let's put it this way, we weren't provided maybe the guidance that we would have liked to be able to break it down a little bit differently, to give you the option of picking and choosing what you might want to do other than these big items.
Well, maybe one thing we could clarify, and maybe follow up what Ed's talking about, is residential homes, a distinction in, where the conference room addition includes the police office changes, and ACS building has that included in their exterior price. I mean, that kind of breakout, just so we get an idea of, then you can more compare apples to apples, okay?
That we can do, absolutely. Yeah.
Because right now, it's hard to compare apples to apples. I'm not saying that he bid it wrong, but I think that's maybe the best way to do it, okay?
See, because when I see a conference room addition, my understanding of the plan of that was to have a basement underneath it, so I could look at that and say, well, it's $129,350 to complete it.
What?
Does he want to talk dollars publicly right now?
No, no.
No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't-
Yeah,
Open
it's
bids.
it's open bids, I mean.
Okay, got it.
Everything that we have here is public now. So I guess what I would like to see is that everything's bid the same way. So as Pat pointed out, that conference room includes the police office and changes, but it's in the other one, and then the basement underneath, they both said, one said 20 and the other said 16, so that makes sense, but that center one in the middle is a little bit, you know.
Understand, and we can do
apples to
that.
apples, just like you said, that would help.
Is anything, the other, Mike, that one of the contractors said that the price would increase 2% in 30 days and
Yeah, I
another
see that.
2% after 60 days? I thought this was a firm price contract that we're asking for.
And it was, except, in the bids, it says, hold the price for 60 days. He specifically put in there with an asterisk that if in fact it extends out, because he can't guarantee the material costs. He was told by his material people that potentially 2% every month, it's going to go up. And so he countered what the requirements were, and they're allowed to do that, and council has to take that into account.
But it is part of why I'd like us to be able to make a decision. in
Well, this is the
next-
first time we've seen, at least I've seen this, so, and it does include, if you look at the drawings, it does include, for the most part, the detail that would be changed and so on. It's not listed really, but you can see from the drawings what the changes are going to be within the police department and so on, and so, the breakout of the major additions, the conference room and the basement underneath, those are pretty clear and distinct from the overall plan, so. I think the attendance at the next meeting would be valuable, to say the least.
At both contractors.
Really, very important. But I think 2 weeks to absorb this, I think, is adequate. I don't see, I think I'm gonna get everything I need with the 2-week timeline, and if they can offer the services come up again in 2 weeks, that would be fine, in my opinion.
I might also add that David Donald's here tonight, and he would be invaluable to invite back as well, unless you had questions for him tonight.
I would very much like to invite both gentlemen back in a couple of weeks. And, had I really thought it through longer in advance, I would have said, let's just plan on it. But, we asked to bring it back to this meeting, and so we've got it here. But I really want to make sure we give everybody in the public a chance for input. We have a public hearing. It's a major capital expenditure for the village. So I really want to make sure that, we get a lot, any additional input before we proceed or not proceed.
Going back to Ed's concerns, we got, like, for instance, on the exterior, the 309,000, whatever it is, if the thought is that maybe we would say not take everything except maybe not all new windows or something to this, whatever, some breakdown like that, can that adjustment, or at least an approximate value be placed on that on the fly at our next meeting, perhaps, or no?
No, but to answer that very quickly, I would certainly entertain that if council had any ideas like that, in the next couple weeks, those two contractors could certainly bring those numbers and say, go back through them and then maybe bring you a little bit firmer number instead of just guessing, because otherwise, I don't think it's possible. But giving them a week or so, they might have those things broken out for you if you knew what you wanted to break out.
That might help me, I think, and I think, I suppose that too, if there's things on here that we think, hey, we don't need this, we want to take this, whatever. Gives us some options over the next 2 weeks to bring it to their attention. I like it. I think it works out well.
Probably the most prudent would be, and I apologize for breaking in, because you can't just say, let's not put that window in, let's put this,
Right.
but maybe saying, let's not go all the way around the building. Let's do this far and then not do the rest of it, or something. If you had something like that, you could get back to Sharon, then I could go back to the bidders and say, is it possible for you to break these out? You might be able to ask that question of one of the bidders if he had something to add to your request.
I think the only major breakout that we really discussed in terms of what's covered, what's not covered, is whether or not we're including the garage, which certainly visibly is not attractive as it is right now, but is also an extension and an increase in the scope from the original project.
And I also thought when we talked about the addition for the conference room, I thought we talked about with a crawl space underneath there and not doing anything to it.
I think that's what we've got here
Is
in
that what
numbers,
that's saying?
except that we don't have the police office changes broken out of one.
Okay, fair
So,
enough. Okay.
So for ACS, and got our gentleman from ACS here, as I understand it, 53,136 would just be putting on the conference room, An additional 16.5 would be if we want to put the conference room with a basement underneath it.
Correct. The first number had it as a crawl space, and then if you wanted to add a full basement, it added 16.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
And Mr. President, we're starting to break out windows, just for an example, and, you know, these are 25 years old. They are not energy efficient. You know, so when you say breaking out windows, something like that is.
I want to make clear to that, I'm not proposing we break, I mean, I'm using that as an example of trying to, break
Okay,
out
safety
the cost
factor
of the
would break.
project. I mean, I understand completely that the building, I'm in favor of redoing this hall, I mean, I really am, so. I use that, maybe it's a bad example, of just as a means to discuss breaking out the cost, that's all.
Yeah, just to clarify for where you are on this process, we're simply going to ask these two companies to extrapolate or make the same comparison. For example, ACS, if you ask them to pull out includes police officers in charge and throw it over the conference room, we're at stage 1. And then stage 2, 3, and 4 would be these other concerns.
Actually, what I would do is ask for that price for the police, and it would be a separate line.
A
So
separate
you would
line.
be able to
So
see.
conference, police, and safety. Very good. All right, that makes sense.
And
I'm not sure if Captain Ellsworth had something to talk about on the storage area.
Obviously, I'll make this brief, but I showed each and every one of you some of the issues we're having with our storage. And they do need to be addressed, and I think that the sooner, obviously, the better we address those. Some can be addressed by special cabinets and things of that nature, but others need to be a very secure area. And again, without going into great detail, I think everybody pretty much understood where I was coming from when I gave them their quick tour. So I think it's very practical for us to consider the basement portion, because obviously we don't have a whole lot of room. But again, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. The other question maybe I had from Mr. Donlin, I don't know where the design, and I don't know if this could be a cost factor, and maybe he can answer it now. The addition we want to put on for the conference room in the basement, that's got a shed roof on it, where all the rest of it had just pitch roof. And why did we not just continue the structure of the roof of the building when you got to the conference room area? Was there a particular reason? Because that sort of looks sort of oddball out there, like it was an add-on. Is it more cost-effective to do it that way than just to continue the normal pitch roof down all the way over the conference room area?
Okay, I think you're trying to
This area here.
describe the difference between a flat roof and a slope roof
I call
consistent
it
with the
shed.
rest of the design. And that was the elevation that was facing the neighbor, residential neighbor. And we did make an aesthetic decision to make it look consistent with the elevation that's facing Glengarry for the sake of the neighbor.
Because that's not what it shows in the picture. I mean, how can you say this is the face that faces Glengarry, right?
Yes. And the slope roof.
This whole facade faces Glengarry.
Correct.
And
And
then what I'm talking about is this out here. Why have we got this shed roof or dormer roof out here then, and not continue this line all the way across?
Oh, I'm
That's what
sorry.
I'm talking about, okay? To me, it just looks like it's out of place to have this out there as opposed to not following the consistency of the roof. The way it is, maybe it's more cost effective, I don't know, but if we're looking at,
Basically, there was no reason to change the mass square footage of the flat roof that you're talking about covering, because it is a very good roof right now, and it's easily gonna last another 15, 20 years. It's a good roof. So we just covered the addition. And we used the architectural feature that's consistent, not with the gable end concept of a roof,
that's what I meant to say.
but the shed image of the roof that faces Glengarry.
See, it looks
That
out-
was the answer. Okay.
Okay, I think we could kick this around in much more detail.
We don't
And I would really like to, and that's kind of why I don't want to do it during the regular council meeting. I want to really give everybody a chance to dig in, make sure we're looking at all of the details. I want to, as a council, we said we would give the public opportunity for input once we got the bids in, so I really want to make sure we've got that. And so I would like to proceed with a vote on the motion, but I want to make sure that if there's anything that people want to get either from the bidders or from Dave or from Mike before that meeting, let's make sure we get it out on the table.
Would we also videocast the public hearing for this portion of this, or not?
We
The
could
videographer is available.
we could talk about it.
2 weeks from tonight, Ken? Same time, same place? 25?
I think it's important at least to get out there and we put on record that we've,
It's the very, very public face of the village. I
Yes.
mean, this is the building, if somebody's thinking about coming to this village, if they're thinking about moving to this village, what's the first place that they have to stop to get something? They have to stop here. They look at it and they judge us as a village by what they see, so it's an important decision for us.
okay,
So I would very much welcome a video cast if we get it.
okay. Do we have a motion for this?
Yep, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have
Okay.
a protocol question, I guess. I mean, if we have questions, as I absorb this over the next couple of weeks, can I contact the contractor, potential contractor directly? or
No, I don't think you should
go
contact the,
through Mike's
directly.
office? What should we do? Through your
Contact
office?
Sharon. Start with Sharon.
All right.
Dave, thanks. We'll see you back in 2 more weeks, but we're almost
I'm just getting
there.
over a cold. I'm not getting close to anybody, and I'm gonna get out of here so I can go to bed.
We appreciate your quarantine.
Michael's gonna call me tomorrow, we'll cover your points.
Thank
Okay,
Mr.
great.
Thank the ASC for coming.
Yeah.
Sorry, we
Yeah,
couldn't make a
thanks.
decision, but we want to be fair to everybody.
Thank you very much.
We'll be here. Thanks. Okay.
Excuse me for asking this question, because we get notifications all the time because of the nature of being on council, but when we have like special meetings, work meetings, and we're opening to the public, will there be any kind of?
Something like that, we'll send out an email blast.
That's what
for
I
sure.
wanted to ask. Okay.
Yep.
You would, okay.
Put it on the website and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, right, put it up on the signs too.
yeah.
Okay, I think we need no further discussion there. Moves us on to Cadillac Asphalt pay request. What have they been up to?
Took them long.
I certainly can't imagine. My office is obviously camped out here the last couple of weeks, and as you can see, even if you've driven down Glengarry Road, you almost don't even have to hold your hands on the steering wheel anymore, and because you please do. Nice smooth ride. We've
Fast,
taken
too.
the
It's fast, too.
we've taken the big ridge out of the roadway, and so we're very pleased. Cadillac is living up to their reputation. That being said, they would like, they didn't have time to put their entire, all the work they've completed on this particular pay request in time, so they would like an interim payment of $345,367.08. That is a little more than half of the contract amount, and they have done, they're at about the 90% level of work completed, so we have plenty to hold over their head if necessary. You probably saw today they're out doing the shoulder work, and next week they'll be dealing with the landscaping, restoring the ditch lines and doing the seeding and mulching down the sides of the road as well. They'll also be finishing up probably Friday, Oak Island Drive. I know that somebody is anxious to have that done, a couple people. Next week also, they'll be finishing up the pathway down along McCoy. That's the schedule anyway. So we're looking here in the next 30 days, having the entire project done, actually within this fiscal year, having the entire project done with with the striping and the whole 9 yards. So it's really turned out to be a very, very well-received project, except for some people that are concerned that why is there a ditch in their front yard that there wasn't before, and various other things. So Other than that, we recommend payment to Cadillac for this interim payment.
All right, I think with that motion, we will also need a budget amendment to, how do I want to phrase that, Mike?
Mr. President, we had originally budgeted $550,000 for the contracted services on this project. This was at the very beginning of our current fiscal year. At that time, recall that it was not entirely clear that we would go beyond Tampa, beyond the area where the dam is. Now that we have some finality to the costs, we will have to ramp this up by about $300,000 to make that line item $850,000. Your question was how to make it part of the motion. The motion would be to approve the payment, and with that, a budget amendment that
So
would.
budget amendment to 202-463-802-003, increasing it by $300,000.
Right.
Okay, do I hear a motion to pay an interim payment to Cadillac Asphalt of $345,367.08 for work as presented, and to also increase 202-463-802-003 by $300,000?
Everybody's.
I will make that motion, but I have a question about it too.
Yeah, I'll second it, but I have questions too.
Motion Cumbo, second Nagy, discussion. Yes, Ron?
First question is, why do they have to be in the same motion after I made that motion? Should they not be two separate motions? I mean, does it matter?
They could have been, it doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter, okay. And the 300,000 is still within, is that in, where does that fall in terms of?
It increases the line item from $550,000 to $850,000, which is within the resources of the major street fund.
Okay, that's for clarification. I want to make sure that, yeah, the money is there. It just has to be reallocated.
So we, in our original budget, had the original smaller budget for when we were looking at the smaller Glengarry
Right.
project and not just doing it all now.
Right. And that'll be just adjusted in fiscal 14.
Correct, this current fiscal year.
When you say the smaller Glengarry project, you mean when you were talking about doing partial?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I guess what I would, this increase came up, originally, wasn't the original bid that Cadillac was gonna do 4 feet on each side, and they were gonna put, and then we had them not to do it, do 2 feet on each side, and then the sidewalk. Now we're taking care of the sidewalk. Is that all?
The original budgeted item, though, from last year's budget didn't contemplate doing the full length of Glengarry. It only had us doing part of Glengarry, and I think the culvert work. So that's why it was $500,000. Then we've gone through a series of bids and changes on this. We went through those initial bids that came in at like 1.2 million. We said, whoa, let's stop and take a look at it. We did the culvert work. We've already paid that out of this $850,000 line item. Now we're coming in. We didn't know whether or not we should make an amendment before, because we didn't know if we'd have an invoice and how much it would be until now. But this is still gonna come into this fiscal year, and that's why we have to move some of what we might have paid from last year into this year.
Mike, 2 things I want to ask. When we talk about striping, are they going to stripe where the path goes across Glengarry?
Yes, we have 2 locations where the path crosses Glengarry,
And then by the baseball?
and by the baseball, and then I have taken it upon myself, since council is leaning towards this way, to add another crosswalk down at Glengarry at South Commerce. Since we're
Okay.
going to extend that path, we might as well get that done now as well. So that'll be a slight increase to the bid amount. But
The other thing I noticed in construction, and I wasn't standing around watching from beginning to end.
I wish you were. I
No,
wouldn't have had to.
No, I didn't want to.
It's your job, Mike.
Is that on some of the culverts, after they had torn the old ones out and they laid the gravel back in for the other ones, I didn't see the kind of compacting that I would have expected underneath the culvert. Now, when they put the material over the culvert and around it, you know, it seemed to get a little bit more attention, so I just hope that where 3 or 4 culverts have gone across Glengarry, that we don't end up getting a sag there.
Yeah, I certainly hope the same thing. Now, when they placed it down, they did use the gravel as a bedding, and so it wasn't really thick. The thicker part of the gravel was on top.
Fabric either.
Didn't use any filter fabric because we had decent material underneath it. We did experience a problem, however, that even over top of the culverts, the smaller culverts, the traffic going over it started compacting it down, even to the point to where when they finished the first course of pavement, the pavement itself had a little dip in it. And that was a major concern, because if you start with a dip, the next layer is going to have a dip as well. So they had to go back in, do some additional repair over those, add some additional asphalt, and you can see they totally eliminated the dip over those. I'm with you. I don't expect to see any dip over any of those culverts.
Because the cars only compact where the tires go.
That's
The
correct.
roller compacts the whole road.
And that was a more of a plate compactor over top of it. Bottom line is, Cadillac also, I want to remind you, has a year guarantee on our roadway. And so if anything happens, they are mandated to come back and repair it.
What's the situation with Lake Powell down there? Was that from the paving, or is that?
That was the
I'll let-
Yeah, actually, what happened was the fabric, as soon as the contractor came out and with his, and he didn't have hip boots enough, he had to pull all the fabric off of that. And as soon as the fabric came off of those culverts, the vortex just took it right down, and it took it to the north side of the roadway.
But there's
So
still vestiges of Lake Powell alongside the road.
actually,
Right now, tonight when I came down here.
it's not in the road. It's actually in the path.
Yeah, it's on the path.
And it's a low spot in the path, right adjacent to one of the drains, and in a matter of a day, it'll be gone. We've kind of lived with that for the last couple of years.
I thought we were gonna try to fix all that when we did the road.
No, that wasn't in the contract. I didn't want them dealing with any of the pathway. It's kind of an interesting thing, and Ed's certainly in the industry. Once you have a little bird bath and you fill there, that bird bath, you just chase it around. And unless you do some overall paving, you can't get rid of that. You actually make it look worse and be worse than it actually is.
Every time we get an inch of rain, we'll have Lake Powell.
Powell Puddle, I think is.
Powell Puddle,
Maybe
yeah.
let's
Rephrase that.
The other thing, Pat, is that it's so hard to get a watertight adhesion between your patch and the base material,
Okay.
that it'll be fine for 8 or 9 months out of the year, but the 3 that it's not fine out there, it'll just pop right back up. That's why cold patch in your driveway looks great in the summer, in the fall, and the spring, but it won't be there during the winter.
Gotcha. Okay.
Further questions on the motion?
Just maybe a point, Mr. President. I've had some people who are in our vast internet audience say, in general, when we get into discussions like this, it's confusing to follow what we're talking about. Maybe some commentary that we're not talking about village funds. These are major road funds. They come from a different source.
So, yeah.
And I think it's important that the general audience understands that this isn't necessarily truly part of our operating budget.
So
I don't know.
I
if you
just
need to say
concur,
more.
I had a fair amount of explaining.
Yeah.
just to be very clear on that point,
Some.
the project that we're talking about, the amendments that we're talking about, there are a couple little details that actually are, pathway details off to the side that are out of general fund, but the, 98% of it or something is all coming out of the major road fund, which is money that the state sends to us to maintain the major roads in the village, including Glengarry. So it's
Good point, John.
collected from all of us out of our gas taxes and our registrations and whatever else they collect not enough money out of, and sent to us. And then, the state basically relies on us to be the best judge of what major roads within the village need work and how to best maintain them and how to best make use of that money. And that's what we're doing now by doing this major repair out there, which will be their,
And just as a further comment, if I'm not mistaken, Wolverine Drive and also
Laguna, that I
are also
believe
part of these
are
major
also
funds.
major runs, yeah, and also part of Schenken.
The part of Shanken, okay, just so the public,
Yeah.
if they're there, understands.
Yeah, the general rule of thumb, not quite exact, but general rule of thumb is if you see a road with a double line on it in the village, that's probably a major road. The roads without lines down the middle, usually out of minor road fund. We get money for both road types from the state. The way the formula generally works out, we usually get more money for major roads than minor roads. And, but we have much more minor road in the village than major road. So we occasionally do transfers, and that's permitted under the state formula too, so.
Thank you.
Yes. So hopefully clear to the vast internet audience at home, everybody up here, slightly smaller audience out there. Any further discussion on the motion? Let's get a roll call vote.
Maggie?
Yes.
Chesnecki?
Yes.
Trumbo?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Renfro?
Yes.
Nickwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. All right. Moves us down to item 12F. We'll start with item 12F1, Park and Rec Board requests council schedule camp out in Clara Miller Park for June 29th, or sorry, June 28th through June 29th. However, I've talked to the administrator about this. There may be some problems with that date, and I think it needs a little bit more looking at, so.
Well, first of all, I think it's a really neat idea, but then there's buts after that. And I don't think 2 weeks is a long enough time for anything like this to be planned or scheduled. We have a lot of things that I would suggest to the park board, like the abutting residents, notifying them. We would need to figure out a security plan. I mean, the park is not open at night. It closes at dusk, so we would be opening the park, and we would certainly need to figure out some security. We certainly wouldn't want people coming in and out while people were sleeping in tents, and so there's a lot of those types of things. Insurance, our insurance carrier, the fire department, if you all recall the Haunted Woods tent that was placed up there and went up in flames real fast. So I think it's a neat idea, but I do not think June 28th is enough time for planning an event like this.
You know, I was at the Park and Rec meeting, just as an annotation in the conversation, I think this is the same day as the national
Yes, it is.
campout or something.
Yes.
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 It's not what it is.
That's
Yeah.
why that date was
That's why
selected.
that date
Yeah.
was discussed, and
And I think they have it every year, a certain
That's true.
national or statewide or however they,
Just planned it earlier.
yeah, and I don't think the idea came to the Park and Rec Board soon enough to get the planning done. I did talk with Lynn and just discussed a lot of these things, but, you know, they're talking fires, bonfires and things, and those are great ideas, and camping is great, I'm all for it, but there has to be a lot of planning. The police department has to be involved in this, and they haven't been involved at all, other than me telling John and him saying, oh, no. So-
And if I could add to that just briefly,
I do think it's a great idea, and I think it would be a fun idea. I would actually like to take part in that, and I think that would be fun. My suggestion would be maybe plan one in August to see how things work out, and then next year, the National Camp Out Night, bring it to us a little earlier so we can make sure we plan or do it in advance so we know that that's going to happen. I don't think that that would be an issue. I don't think that will be an issue. The reason I say that is we have a very limited space down at that park that would not be intrusive to the surrounding neighbors. Now, if you have a particular area picked out, and again, I don't want to go into great detail, but I do want you to start thinking about some of these things. If there's going to be a fire pit, for example, it should be on a dirt portion of it. Well, there's ball diamonds down there. Those ball diamonds are still being used probably up through the 4th of July. So that's something that's going to be interfered with too. So we need to make sure we take these things into consideration when we're planning these events, that it doesn't interfere with the ongoing operation of the park as it is. You know, the restrooms and things of that nature are going to have to be addressed as well. But the safety and security issue would be something that we would definitely need some advance notice and be able to work something out with the Parks and Rec. I'd be more than happy to have discussions with you guys when you guys are having those discussions to set it up.
Okay, well, obviously, our next meeting isn't until the end of this month. That would give you, and if it was discussed, they still wanted pursuit for this year, August is still okay?
I think we could do something. I mean, if we had that, I mean, it's a couple of months away. I
Okay.
still think we could do something like
Okay.
that.
All right,
And we want to do it obviously before the school starts and
Right.
before the weather turns, so. But I think that might be, and all the baseball things are done by that time too,
Okay.
so.
So maybe do I hear a motion to ask Park and Rec to work with the administrator on planning for a different day for the camp out.
Yeah, for this year, for say August, as the captain suggested, then for also for them.
I'm just saying, as a motion, maybe just say a different day.
Okay.
That'll give time to
Later.
get planning. Don't pin them down on when it needs to be, but make sure,
But
we
then
can work
the-
out a date.
But then to plan forward for next year to try to have it done on National Campout Day.
Yeah, I think we,
Then they give them the year to get prepared for next June.
Okay.
so-
You know, the fact that it doesn't fall on National Campout Day, I think that is significant. That's kind of what's cool about it.
Well, that's-
Everyone's camping out all over the country.
Well, I
where
think
they're supposed
until,
to.
you know, I'm trying to blank, mentioned it, I don't think anybody else even knew it was National Camp Out
Yeah,
Day.
well, that's, I mean, maybe not. I don't know, but I mean, it's a great, I think we all agree it's a great idea,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of
Planning.
issues that have to be dealt with.
There's a lot of i's to dot and t's to cross. We're going to do a camp out in a municipal park.
Yeah.
And safety is very important.
Right, absolutely.
They have in their, when it's, you know, they have to be 18, for instance, so then
Right.
children have to be accompanied.
Yes,
So they are addressing it
some of, we thought,
to a
some
degree,
stuff.
but,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea too. We
Yeah.
we just need more time to be able to plan it adequately. So I would say again, do I hear a motion to ask Park and Rec to work with the administrator on planning a new date for the camp out?
Do you need a motion, or do you just want me to take it back?
Well, they've given you a motion.
They've given us a
So we
motion, so I
need to
want us to at
respond
least
with
act
the
on it,
motion.
respond to it.
All right.
maybe more than a different date, the motion, I think, should, has a motion been made? I don't know.
No, I keep
No, it
asking for a
hasn't.
motion.
I mean, I guess I would make a motion that we send it back to a later date to facilitate addressing all the concerns which were discussed tonight.
I'll take that motion. Motion Gumbo.
Second.
Second Nedrow. Further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
A follow-up question. Captain Ellsworth, would you want to come to our meeting, or would you rather just someone, whether it be Lynn or whoever was going to chair this, I can't remember if it was Lori or whatever, contact you directly, or how would you like?
We can have discussions prior to your meeting, so we can make sure all the things that are
Okay.
my concerns are addressed, and I'm sure Sharon's
Okay.
concerns will be
All right.
addressed. I think
Capper was the,
we could do that.
So yeah, Pam, I think you can,
Capper?
Was gonna be the chair of the
Okay.
event.
yeah, I think you can just bring it back to her tomorrow and just say, hey, here's what we did, but why we did it, and let's just set up a meeting.
All right. Thanks.
All right, next item, Park and Rec Board recommends the council to replace the park sign on Oak Island and landscape for a cost not to exceed $2,000. And actually, what I would like to do with that is we have, you'll note in the ones that we accidentally omitted from the agenda but have added, one of the recommendations from Finance Committee was to establish a subcommittee to work on Park and Rec capital expenditures with the chair of Park and Rec and a couple of nominees. I'd like to take this one and send it to that committee when it's formed.
Would we be forming that committee this evening, or
Hopefully, we will when we get there.
when we get there? Okay.
So,
If I could just make some just general comments, it's probably better in Pam's hand. But, this motion came after a large discussion about where we were in the planning stages. And I have taken about 200 shots around the park, and particularly given the sensitivity of some of the discussions and to where the first work is going to occur, it was shots around the area that most of us who live in the island know is the parking area, the turnaround, the area that doesn't have any paving but is basically dirt, and then also the area in and around the sign. And we do have signs designed. I think Parks and Rec has
We
renditions.
had a design, I was
bids,
hoping that,
and-
when the motion was made, they were going to include that in the packet, and it
Right,
wasn't.
and then have a public meeting or discussion as to what, well, where those photos are going is into an individual who has design competency in graphics, and he was gonna render out in coordination with the guy that he's using on his own property, who's a landscape architect render out what that would look like. So it was really to get the ball going, but if we're gonna get the proposed committee going, I think it's a good thing to put it all together and help Parks and Rec really move faster on this stuff.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see us be able to do all of it in a one clean picture instead of, kind of a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there. And as these have come, you kind of get a motion with no supporting documentation, and then you're like, well, we got to find out a little bit more, and then
Yeah.
go back and go forth. So,
And part of that discussion, just to go back to millings, there was discussion about whether or not millings had some place in helping to solidify that area that really is somewhat designated as a parking area. I just wanted to put that out in council, so that's part of the mindset of discussion when we're.
yeah, I think if we're going to do anything with millings, we should probably count on doing it fairly soon, though.
Soon.
We have lots of millings.
We have lots of
We're,
millings.
yeah,
Okay, so we have time to contemplate.
yes, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't from lack of millings, it was just, I want to make sure we don't end up with Mount Milling.
Oh,
Mount DPW in the back here, yeah.
The vast millings fields of Wolverine Lake.
Yeah, that's Mount
So- Do I hear a motion to send this recommendation to the proposed Park and Rec Capital Expenditure Fund Committee, if it is created?
I'll make a motion.
Motion Kesnecki, second Nagy, further discussion. And yes, I realize it is a little odd to send something to a committee that we haven't yet created. If we do not, if we get to that, if we get to that,
Formed committee.
if we get to that motion and we decide not to create that meeting, I will entertain a motion to reconsider this motion.
Typical politics.
I think that just keeps us moving straight forward through the thing. I can see Ron, just the question.
Late night
I'm all
reading.
for doing it our way, so that's good.
Okay, further discussion on that motion.
Question, Dan.
Yes.
In their minutes, it has, Linda suggesting that they get started with the sign for Oakland, which had been proposed previously. I don't remember a sign being proposed, was it? I mean,
Yes.
is there a design? or-
Yes, there is a design, and there was a sketch, and it was
I saw it.
distributed, but I was kind of hoping that it would have been repeated in the packet.
Okay. But now, we're gonna hold off on that, as make it more comprehensive, thing, establishing parking and all that, and the sign will go along with that, is that our intent? As
Flower beds
opposed
and
to
all
the
the things I
soon-to-be
think is
created
part of it.
committee?
Yeah.
Are we gonna do
I've got to be honest, I'm sure I probably saw whatever the proposed sign was at some point. I don't have any recollection of it.
I don't either, and that's why. I
Well, we
asked
did,
it.
I'm positive.
No,
I'm positive.
Yeah, I
we
have
did.
sketches of it if you need
Yeah,
it,
but-
because
No,
the graphic guy
Well,
wanted
it
it.
didn't,
I'll
it
send
didn't
it
come
out
with
to you.
Yes.
the information.
No, I'm not saying at all that we didn't get it before, and that we should get it, and we should send it to that committee.
Well, that's correct, but it was never really bid out.
Right.
It was just a.
It was just a
design by
concept, yeah.
A sign company to get an idea what it would look like.
Right, the design, yeah.
They were $600 a set in a piece, I think.
Okay, further discussion of that motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to item G, second call to the public, an opportunity for citizens to address the council regarding any and all village business. I open the second call.
They're all sleeping.
Seeing none, I close the second call to the public. And that brings us down to item J, set topics for the June 2014 work session. I believe we have already set that date as a special session to discuss building renovations. So I don't think we need any further discussion there. Brings us to item K, Administrative Committee. We have two recommendations from the Administrative Committee, both related. They are ZBA recommendations. Had a lot of discussion about ZBA, what they've been approving, training, what they're doing procedurally. We had some further discussions in the administrative committee. We talked about what some other communities do. We talked about making sure that we want our ZBA to be in full legal compliance. And we decided that we would like to recommend to council that we have an attorney present at ZBA meetings. So we've asked the building official to be there because ZBA didn't think they were getting enough input. I think ZBA sometimes lacks the legal grounding on which to make some of these decisions. I think the training is going to help. I think we'll improve things going forward. But, you know, a lot of applicants come before there with an attorney. An ounce of prevention, in this case, an ounce of legal prevention, I think might go a long way for us. So that was our recommendation. I would also say that in that, we recommended for the first year, let's not increase the ZBA fee right now. This will be, the village would pay the legal fees associated with this for the first year. Second recommendation we had was to then review that situation in a year, at which point we might have a clearer view of what the legal cost of that is and decide whether or not we want to add that legal cost to the overall ZBA fee, which is designed to cover the village's cost of a ZBA appeal. So that's what we have recommended.
It was in that discussion that we just felt it was just the proper thing to do, very prudent. It was, I think it's a wise action to take. I mean, the council's not in a position to revise or reverse any decision that they make. As we rely on our attorney for guidance, I think they need the same service. And, you know, it's astounding we've gone this far without it, frankly. And so I think we did separate the motions there. One is just to ask our village attorney to attend these meetings, representing our village interest. So that's as simple as that.
Or a representative of your firm. I know that scheduling might be difficult, but.
Nope, I think that's a good idea.
I thought, having been there, you'd, yeah.
Meeting.
Is there any estimate as to what that might be in terms of attorney fees? I mean, are we just, I know they don't hold a
It's
meeting
hourly.
every
Yeah,
time,
it's just
so
our
it's
hourly.
hourly.
Yeah, it's hourly.
And about 2 hours each meeting.
An hour,
I guess, or
maybe, an
something.
hour to
Maybe
most.
an hour.
Hour, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Usually an hour.
it
There
would
might be a
just
little bit of review in
Yeah,
advance or
just
something.
reviewing
so.
the packet and materials and.
It's probably at least a couple hours, I would say, per meeting,
Yeah.
at least a couple hours.
Yeah, that's what I would think, for review and et
Mhm,
cetera, so. So max out 2 hours times 8 meetings or something is what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
said. Okay.
Well worth it.
So I would make the same motion I made at admin, which was, we require the village attorney to attend all ZBA meetings, and those costs, attorney costs, will not be charged to the applicant at this time.
I'll second that motion.
Motion Cumbo, second Nagy. Further discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a second motion, Ron?
Yes, you do. The second motion would be that we review after a year whether to ask the applicants to ZBA to pay for that, the cost of having our attorney represent our interests at those meetings.
Second that
Here's
motion.
Motion Cumbo, second Nagy. Further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. I think that's, you know, we've put a lot of effort into the last 6 months or so into making sure that, more than 6 months, the last year or so, into making sure that, you know, our building procedures are improved, our ZBA procedures are improved, you know, everything's working better with planning, and I think this is an important part of it. Okay, that came from admin. We have from finance a motion to recommend council establish a park capital improvement committee and work in conjunction with Park and Rec Board chairperson. Previous discussion on a previous item, we talked about that a little bit, but it's really, Park and Rec is generally set up to really run events, to think of events, to do things on events. They have over the years had, you know, sort of varying degrees of you know, familiarity with the process of setting up long-term capital expenditure budgets, sort of the information that we need to get. Sometimes we get really good, clear requests from them, sometimes not. So we just thought it would be a good idea to give them a little help in putting together a good long-term park plan for what we're gonna actually need to spend money on, to get some of these requests, things like the sign requests, sign and landscaping request, I should say. Make sure that when they come to council, we've got a really clear idea of what it is and where it fits in the big picture. So, we did not, I believe, actually discuss how many people should be on that, that committee, who should be on it, what its makeup should be. I would favor at least having a couple members of council, maybe a couple members of finance, our administrator for sure,
And the member of the Park and Recs.
and, yeah, the chair of Park and Rec.
Yeah.
That would give us,
It's gotta be enough.
that's gonna be.
Committee.
Because
Well,
not
well,
about,
Sharon,
So-
yeah, it's three from council and Sharon and,
How often do you envision meeting?
I think it would be the sort of thing where we would probably meet a couple times over the next couple months, put together something,
Yeah,
have it for
when
council, and then it would really become an as needed, like once a
That's what
quarter
I
or
was
something.
thinking. That's what I was, okay.
And, you know, it may be the sort of thing that if we get down the road a couple years from now, and we've got everything clear, and we're happy with what the procedures are, we could look at disbanding that. You know, I think the big question is sort of long-term, let's make sure we've got a good process in place, we've got a good plan for the next 3 to 5 years, and we'll be ready to roll, so.
Yeah, the whole time I've been attending a lot of these meetings, they're a pretty loose group. They really are, and, you know, they spend a lot of time discussing some things to death, you know, and other things that they should be spending more time on, you know, they don't, and we've lost a couple people, and I know of another person who's gonna be leaving. I don't think he's done so officially, so I don't really want to say anything, he just, I happen to know him personally. I happen to know that person personally, and I know that they're gonna be moving out of state. So, and there's a lot of things that the Park and Rec, a lot of events and a lot of things that they do.
They have a
It's
lot on their plate.
extremely
They put a
time-consuming.
ton of time in. You know, look, their heart and soul isn't with capital expenditure
No, I know
requests.
it's not. I know it's
Nobody
not.
is. So I think this is an opportunity for us to give them a little help in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
taking that chunk off and letting them focus on the things they want to do. You know, making sure we get their input for what's really important with the Park and Rec.
Yeah.
Making sure we coordinated a bit with our master plan and our master park
Yeah.
plan. And getting a clear picture of where we're going there.
we could ask the council liaison to Parks and Rec, whoever that is.
I plan on.
I know, but I mean, as
I
opposed,
just-
as opposed to having the chairman of the, asking them to come.
Well, no, I
to
think,
the
I
meeting.
No,
think the chairman ought to be there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they run the meeting, you know? I mean, and then,
More or less, yeah.
yeah.
So are you looking for volunteers, Mr. President, or am I?
Well,
reading
actually,
too
what I'm
far
looking,
into
what I'm
this?
looking for is a decision on, you know, what the makeup of the
Oh, okay.
committee should be, and then I will certainly solicit volunteers. I would, you know, I would take 2 council members, chair of Park and Rec, administrator and treasurer as our ex officio, because, or, you know, treasurer as a
about
member,
village
because we
resident?
will. What?
Yeah.
I think we're kind of covered with Park and Rec chair there.
And the other thing, Mr. President, the Onwards and Upwards Committee talked about doing something too, so Mike's a member of that committee, so.
So it would give us a
David.
liaison with
Yes.
them.
Some talk together.
And I think that would give us a good combination of council, administration, input from Park and Rec. You know, as committees go, I don't know that we're gonna get a lot of real interest for Village, but, does that sound good to people? Do I hear a motion to establish a Park and Rec Capital Expenditures Committee? The membership to be 2 members of council, Chair of Park and Rec, Village Administrator, and Village Treasurer.
I'll make that motion.
Motion Sinkowitz,
I'll second.
Yeah.
second Cumbo. Discussion? I think it's a-
Did I hear you say that we would or would not want to entertain to have somebody from a resident on that committee?
Well, we talked about it. I think the Chair of Park and Rec actually gives us good residential input there.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
I will certainly, I'll volunteer to be on this committee. Normally, I would try to duck out of an extra committee, but I think it is an important committee. It's something I want to see us work on, so.
I'll throw my hand up too.
Yeah, me too. But
You know what?
He just
I
got
will
all-
step back. I'll take the volunteerism of Kaznecki and Scott.
Who are
I'm-
gonna be the chair? Who's gonna be the chair of this committee? Not me. No. Man, I am busy 5 nights a week after work. I just,
John has chaired many a meeting before. He can chair many a meeting again. Let's go to a vote on the establishment of the committee, and then we will populate it. So,
Okay.
further discussion on the makeup of the committee? Let me get a roll call vote.
Kaznecki?
yes.
Combo?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow? Sikowitz?
I think it's a good idea.
No,
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah,
Gotta keep you busier, Pat.
Okay, now we can talk about the makeup of the committee. Even though I'll be happy to step out and not be an official member of the committee.
Well,
I'm happy to provide
you
my
could,
input.
I would have no problem if you would like to be there for the initial meeting. And if you want to step back after that, you can kind of play it by ear.
Well, you've already got someone from Park and Rec, so,
Yeah.
you know, don't
Let the
feel.
committee decide how you guys want to form it and what you want to do. Who's the chairperson and all that.
All right. all
Well,
right.
it's a council subcommittee though, so it has to be a council person, I would,
No, it's a
Not
joint
chair.
subcommittee, really.
okay.
I mean, we've got,
Who's the chair of the finance committee?
Good point.
yep,
Mike's
Mr.
there.
Councilman?
yeah.
Mike
Let's let
did.
let's let the committee decide who they want to chair it.
Good example.
Yeah, I think that committee will not lack for leadership.
No.
So, yeah, but I would be happy to nominate councilpersons Scott and Kaznecki to be our council representatives on that committee. Actually, I guess I need a motion to nominate them.
I'll make that motion.
Motion Nagy, do I hear a second?
Sure.
Second Nedrow.
Come on, Pam, smile.
Further discussion?
I think I should be on it. It just-
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to let some stuff slide. that's all.
Yeah, I think when we look at it all together and bring it all together, it's gonna come together pretty quickly. Because when we went through Park and Rec stuff on finance, we got a pretty good list of everything really that Park and Rec wants in the long term.
So when you have committee meetings involving Sharon and Mike, who work here during the day, do you have those meetings during the day or at the
A
evening?
lot of them during the day, yes.
During the day?
We usually try to if we can.
Okay.
Whatever on Friday.
Mostly
because
the
you don't
morning.
work on
I say Fridays. It's gotta be Friday.
Friday, because she didn't work on Friday.
7:30
I still do 40
Burritos at the park.
hours a week. It's just 4 days.
Retire.
Okay, so we've got a motion, we've got a couple of nominees, further discussion on our nominees. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, folks.
I have one more-
We'll let the committee members get together amongst themselves and decide on a good date to start.
Is Lynn aware of this?
I don't know if she's aware or not.
No,
Okay,
Surprise, surprise.
I'll call her.
I
Yeah.
can't remember if I've discussed it with her or not.
Okay,
You can,
I will.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know whether I need to or not.
Yeah, and, you know, really the idea is just to take some of the financial detail burden off and get a quick
Yeah.
picture.
They're not very good at that.
Okay, final of our added items, from planning, we have, received the resignation of Frank Triumfi because of his inability to make the meetings. Do I hear a motion to accept with regret the, resignation of Frank Triumfi?
I mean, I'll make that motion.
Or-
We gotta have somebody there all the time, and you're right, Frank goes away for 6 months out of the year, it seems like.
Really good member, but he's, yeah.
Yeah, he's good when he's there, but when
He's
he's,
been on for quite a while.
So go ahead and make your motion.
I'll make that motion that we accept
We
the
had it.
resignation of
Oh,
Frank.
that's right.
Triumfi.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the resignation of Frank Triumfi due to absences. Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second.
Second, Scott. Yeah, Frank's got a lot of knowledge, really good overall member, but yeah, we've talked about this already, so, you know, we just need committee members to be able to make the meetings. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, brings us to pending business, which can pend this month. Update from Captain Ellsworth.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mike Conduct for all his help with the budget. Appreciated. It was back and forth a little bit, but it's great help. And the Glengarry Speedway is now open.
Get that radar sign out there.
It is out there and it is charged. And obviously, we're doing extra patrols. I will say, the people from Cadillac Asphalt were very helpful. The people with the sign, the traffic control were not very helpful at times. However, we did get that addressed, and I think it was worked out finally. And it did work smooth today, especially. But when they were paving, it was a little bit difficult, and I had some initial complaints. At the risk of upsetting some people, I feel I would be remiss if I didn't say something about the discussion earlier regarding rebates and things of that nature. I took some notes here and I wanted to kind of go through those. Before we start to give back rebates, I want to remind you that this department in 2007 consisted of 9 full-time employees and a budget of nearly $900,000. Consisted of 1 chief, 2 sergeants, 5 officers, a records, full-time records clerk, dispatcher, and 2 part-time dispatchers. We currently have a captain/chief, 1 sergeant, 3 full-time officers, and 3 part-time officers. We haven't had raises 5 to 7 years. And I understand that's contractual, but I want to put that out there. I guess I want you to understand that even though you feel you owe it to the residents, I also feel you owe it to your employees. We bit the bullet. We made it happen. We made it so we could stay the Wolverine Lake Police Department. Even though we went through some years of transition, this has not been easy. It's not been easy for me. It's not been easy for my officers. You still have your chief working weekends and working on the Marine Patrol.
I've seen it.
It's no fun. We're putting in a lot of hours. We're adjusting so we don't burn up our overtime as much as possible. And, you know, it takes a lot of time. I feel you sometimes forget that we're not back to where we were. We talk about how things are back to normal. We're not. We're far from it. The DPW is still short people. We're still short people. We're killing ourselves out here. The morale of this police department is going downhill. I'm getting exhausted. I'm getting very frustrated. I've expressed it to Sharon. I know other people have felt this. But I would feel I'm not doing myself or my officers or the rest of the employees a favor by not bringing it up. I appreciate we're getting better. We're getting more stable. But to talk about giving back money to our residents, and I appreciate that. I understand that. But start taking care of the people we have here, or you're not going to have anybody here. I have officers that have been here for years that are now looking for other jobs because of several different things that are going on. But we're not addressing the issues that we have currently and it's starting to wear on us. So at the risk of upsetting people, I feel that I owe it to my officers, my department, to at least mention this and get it out there. We make it look too easy sometimes. We do. And it's very frustrating. We have officers that can't take vacations in a timely manner because we have other officers that are off with injury. This has been an extremely difficult 2 years to go through with an officer being, at least one officer being off 17 months. We're getting back to where we're almost healthy, but now I have all these people that have to use their vacation time or lose it. And I don't feel it's fair for us to take that away from them. They should still be able to take it. But if I let them take all their vacation that they've accumulated over this time, I'm still not going to have anybody back full-time until September. So when we're all talking about all the good things we want to do, we have to start talking about taking care of the people that are here. So I guess with that, remember Tiki Night is coming up July 3rd. We're getting things set up, and we're going to have another meeting with the Laguna residents. We are working well with Oakland County Sheriff's Department, and Wixom Police Department, and Wall Lake are going to assist us again this year. And we just want to make sure we have a safe and happy Tiki Night and 4th of July. With that, I'm done.
All right, update from the treasurer.
Nothing for me, Mr. President, but while I'm here, do any of you have any questions with respect to the new email and usage and so forth? Is everybody maneuvering around in it okay?
So far, so good?
No problem.
I've heard from a few of you individually, and I think we've rectified things. Okay, just making sure.
That's it. Update from the treasurer.
And since Mike mentioned it, I was going to mention it too, that from now on, all your emails will go to that new address. That's the address posted on the website, and so I felt at our last meeting, no one had received their agendas or any information. You all look like,
I will be
Deer
the
in
first to
headlights,
confess I had
so-
not yet developed the habit of going in there.
so I want to make sure that you realize nothing will come to your old address.
Jen, I have a question. What about like the notice I get from Tabitha generally on Fridays about the upcoming Park and Rec meeting on Monday? Will that come?
Everything from now on, from this office, is going to come to your new address,
Okay.
everything.
Actually, I believe if you're just on the regular village email update
Yeah.
list,
You
that
still
should
be able
still
to
come
get
to
that.
your personal account.
Yeah, my wife.
Village update, right,
The
right,
email
right.
blast
No, I'm asking
will come
about,
to wherever you've put
I
it.
figured that everybody else, she probably has a group email, so she'll just change my name to the
Yep.
other one. Okay.
Everybody's addresses have been changed, so
Mm-hmm.
make sure you check those, otherwise you're going to miss out on a lot of updates and things. The next thing I wanted to mention is the harvesters in the water. It was put in last Friday, and it floats, and it's beautiful. We had the representative from Aquamarine come here yesterday and ride with the new operators and, well, not the new operators, the old operators and the new machine, and do a test run, and everything works really well. And our lake consultant was on the lake today, so we should probably be getting some type of a report as to where we should harvest. And we have not purchased the GPS yet, but we're researching the proper GPS for the harvester. And I think that's all I have.
All right. Next to council comments, we'll start down there this month. Mr. Scott.
I have no real great comments, to be honest with you. It was a good meeting, as always. Thank you.
Nedrow.
Just to have a happy and safe Tiki Night.
Sinkowitz.
Couple quick things. When we got the first application of chemical in the lake, the kids were still in school. And obviously, it takes a while to do the lake, so some areas get it done earlier, some of them get them later. But I know we had talked about trying to avoid the weekends, and the chemical was put in on the, was it the 27th, which was a Thursday. And that weekend was an exceptionally nice weekend, and I don't know, it says here that by Saturday it was okay to swim. But I can, in our neighborhood, my neighbor and my grandkids, the girls broke out in a rash. It could have been from something else, but I think, and I don't see any reason why we can't make sure that when we put the chemical in, it's either on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, so there's no question that by Saturday or Sunday, that there's not a problem with any chemicals. And, you know, I never knew of anybody that had an allergy to peanut butter or peanuts until 15 years ago, so, you know, it's just something that, to keep in mind. And the other thing is, and I guess what I was trying to allude to some extent on this budget, on a new structure, when we first started talking about this, the original thing was, we're not gonna do the stucco, we're gonna put this out, we need some new windows, and we need that. And I don't even know if we really got a formal budget, but the next thing I know, we're remodeling the whole building, and before we even got that, we're already adding a basement and another larger area out there. And I guess, I don't know how anybody else on council feels, but it's nice to see what the Cadillac looks like, but I would also like to know what the Chevrolet looks like. What would it cost to put stucco in windows and modify the police department, because there's a lot of wasted space in there, and maybe do something here and do something there. But all we know is that, and if we all recall, when I first saw the picture of it, I told you this thing was gonna be well over $250,000. But we don't know what the low end is. We know the high end and the higher end, but we don't know anything from that back. And other than that, obviously, let's have a safe and uneventful 4th of July and see everybody back here.
Thank you. Gumbo.
I have a couple of things also. Thank you, Mike, for the help with the budget and making it clear and concise, and your efforts all along the way. It's been, Mike should take a lot of credit for the success we've had budget-wise. There's no question about it. Secondly, I do appreciate the chief's remarks about, maybe we, I think we can be short-sighted sometimes about thinking that everything is great when everything maybe isn't great. You have to kind of look, deep to see, and keep it in a timeline where you can, know what the people have been through over the last 2, 3, 5 years, whatever. I am empathetic to what John's saying, and I appreciate your comments. And then happy Tiki Night. Looking forward to it.
Bless you.
Kaznicki.
Yeah, I do have a couple comments too, as well. Just a reminder, next Tuesday is our first Tuesday in the park, on the 17th, if anybody's interested. Something just to think about long-term here, when we do the festival in September, Lori's done a really good job of creating several spreadsheets and pages of various businesses in the area that you could hit, asking for donations. So if there's anybody on council that has a real good connection that could get something too, just think about that. Not that we're, we do pretty good in gathering stuff, but, if everybody knows somebody, and if you get a good connection, we're always looking for donations for the festival. I agree with John. I think I've seen it happen a lot in the business world, that every department has X amount of people, and new assignments come along, and if it isn't the truth that the people who are the busiest, that do the best job, get all the new assignments, and there are other people that sit there emailing all day, checking stuff out. So I think, I'm glad you brought it up, and I think you have made it look too easy. And I think you're trying your darndest to make it look that way, but sometimes, when you do a good job, it backfires on you. So sometimes, that old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so thank you for bringing it to our attention. And I have one other question. Any status on the DNR? People keep asking me about Penny Lake and aeration. Where are we on that?
Yes, I know.
Nothing yet?
We were expecting a draft permit this week,
Uh-huh.
and we don't have it yet, but the pond guy feels confident that we will be getting it because he's talked with them. And so he's going to start the electrical. But we don't have the permit. We're still waiting from DNR.
I hope we get it started before the summer's over, so.
We're hoping to get it
Yeah.
in the 1st of June, and it's
Yeah.
the middle of June.
Yeah, electrical is the most difficult. Probably installing the lines is a 2-day operation, isn't it?
That'll take the most time, but, we've already got it nailed down to where everything's going to be, so it's just running, and they've talked with DTE, and we've got all that.
Yeah. And then ditto everybody else's comments to Mike. Great job. I appreciate your hard work, and everybody have a good time, and let's all pray for good weather for Tiki Night. That's it.
Nagy.
Yeah, I support Ron's and Pam's comments both about the police department, and sometimes we are a little bit nearsighted and we need to look at everybody. And get this, maybe there's something we can do, I don't know if we can, but I can appreciate what you're going through, okay? And especially the budget that Mike put together, yes, creative accounting all the time plays out, Mike. All right, but it always works out.
Let me argue that it is lovely and dull accounting just the way we like it.
All right, and one other comment about, I had heard, Mike, I don't know if you can answer this question, that the anticipated increase in revenue sharing is now gonna be like less than what we thought it might have been. It could be like 5% or less or something like that is what I had heard. Some commentator on the TV made that. I don't know if you heard anything about revenue sharing from the state, if it's gonna be good, bad, or ugly.
No, I have numbers, the numbers I put in there, I get from the state's website, from the treasurer's website, and I've not seen anything to the contrary.
Okay,
from
it was
what I
just some,
originally-
this is only a couple.
I had not heard that.
It was, I heard this one day last week, okay. And yes, and everybody have a good, safe, tiki night, and no rain. Thank you.
All right, and I did want to mention, I'll be representing the village at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast Tuesday morning. We're getting recognized there for our years of membership and service, so
35 years.
35 years. And for those keeping track, this makes 2 breakfast events I will have attended in the last month or so. So
Don't be late to this one, Tom.
I was on time. It was overbooked. Don't expect me much before the 7:30 a.m. kickoff, though. Also want to wish everybody a happy and safe Tiki Night. And last thing I just wanted to say is thank you to everybody. Again, I said this when we passed the budget earlier tonight, but for everything that goes into the budget process that's made it a good process. It's, having been here, when I went through that the first time 8 years ago, my first go-around as president, it was an extremely painful process because there were a lot of terrible decisions we had to make. We are still making a lot of hard decisions every time we go through it, and there's a reason we take, several months to go through. But really proud of the budget, really proud of where we are as a village financially. We are spending some money on things, and it's because we've put ourselves back in a position to be able to do that. And that's really important. It's a credit to all the work that's gone in by everybody involved, so.
Mr. President?
Wait, are you gonna adjourn?
Wait,
Okay.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
ask a quick
Mike.
question, because I just brought it up. Is the contract or the commitment we have with aeration, the warranty, is it a season or is it date to date? I mean, God forbid we all know now, we're dealing with the DNR. So if we get, let's say they really push it along and we get it before September, it wouldn't make any sense to, obviously, to put it in, but let's say if we put it in at the end of the month and, obviously, we're not gonna get the same results as we would if it started when we were hoping it would start. The warranty that we have with the people that are supplying this equipment, is it 3 years or 3 seasons?
My recollection was that it was for 3 years, but I don't have the contract in front
I'm
of me.
just curious, because, who knows what'll happen.
No, I know exactly the question you're asking.
We've done all our homework, we know where they're gonna go, and Sharon's got all the electrical lines up, and then, Larry, Mo, and Curly are still holding us back. So if we run into trouble,
My recollection is that it was 3 years, but that's my recollection without the contract in front of me.
okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to remind everybody, please bring this with you to your next meeting, because this is a lot to copy.
Yep.
And actually, I want to remind everybody to
look at
share it with your neighbors, share it with your friends, let people know that we're taking a look at it. I really encourage people to come down, take a look at what the plan is, and come let us know what they think about it.
Make sure we have copies for the great audience we're gonna have.
I would like to make a motion.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. This is somewhat unprecedented. I'm sorry I'm speaking out of turn here, but I would be remiss if I did not express my admiration for Mike Stack and some of his staffers there, Jenny Hansen among others, who did a great job at the annual Coxeter Open, at which Mr. Ellsworth, Captain Ellsworth, and I participated. He much more successfully than I, and it's just really a really good time, really good day.
Mike, I knew there was something I was forgetting on my list, and that was it.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was a great location too. The dunes had a lot of room
That's
afterwards.
huge in there.
It was
It was roomy.
great.
It was fun. Now
Motion to
I-
adjourn. Support.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Nedro. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Second.
That was quick.
Yeah. Good thinking of